Okay, my claim is that I have stuff's DNA tested and they're giants, and here's one of them right here, a fingertip. Still has a fingerprints and a fingernail. I had to break this off so I could get down into the blood, and I did get some, and it was DNA tested, and it's human. And here's another one, it's smaller, but still 4 feet wide. This hand, it's a left hand, and if you look at the details, you can figure it out. I'm going to be showing you details in a minute anyway. And this is the fingerprints. Fingerprints were still on that huge, gigantic, my thumb is as wide as one fingerprint ridge. Those two little dots right there are the sweat pores. And it was excellent quality DNA. Now, a guy was laughing at people saying, oh, how could these idiots think these were steps? You see these people are standing, he says, these were terraces where they were growing things. I said, well, that's not a bad thought. But they had stairways here, where you see these people walking these stairways? Why would they have stairways, little ones, if these were steps? That was the guy's, well, he was being kind of nasty. That's all right, because I like a challenge. And he put up a good argument. But here's the key. They were both here at the same time. You see this? The little people helping this big guy out. And that's just one of them. They were all over these things about the giants working with the little people. Look, this guy's cleaning his feet. All right, so that, to me, explains the little steps and the big steps. And this is down in Tambo or something like it. There's a name to it. And they were killing and trying to kill and get rid of the giants. They were cutting their guts out. A group of natives in the central highlands of Mexico capturing and putting to death a giant from the Vaticano Codex. They showed all kinds of pictures of things that people just laughed at. Oh, they're just silly. No, I don't think so. I do not think so. Here it is. Excellent quality from the 36-inch tip and from the long. I showed you the long, and it's flat kind of pancake because it died in a great flood. So did this giant fingertip from a giant creature, which was human. Now, don't forget, I took the sample out, but I went in and actually went down inside, and I'll show you how I did it. All right, my tests were PCR DNA tests. And what does PCR mean? They're short chains of sequences that attach to the stuff that is in the sample. And if they match, you got a match. And so they're used in DNA sequencing, chain reaction, other molecular biological techniques. And how do they work? How do DNA tests work? All right. They have a target sequence. The DNA sequence to be amplified is known as the target sequence. So they put in a primer. The primer is designed to be complementary to the target sequence. So if it finds the target sequence, then it amplifies it. If it's not there, it's not there. But mine was human mitochondrial DNA, Homo sapien, and they were excellent quality. So what I was doing, I was looking through the tests today. Because, you know, I forget things, and I was looking through, and these are the primers used. Now, the primers are what attaches. So it was excellent quality, so the attachment was very complete, 80 to 100 base pairs. All right, DNA sequenced at approximately 80 to 100 base pairs. DNA sequence generated for the 36-inch tip and the lung. Those were the two best. The other one was more of a mud fossil, very highly transitioned. The other two were like almost raw blood, and they actually did say that, not raw blood, but here's the different sequences and so forth, and the results of the tests. And up here it says somewhere it was excellent quality. Hold on, it was a very detailed text. Hold on, let me find it. All right, this lung I had DNA tested. I have it in my hand right now. This is when I first took it out of the ground, and I found blood in this one, actually blood coming out. And this one here was just completely red, and they were both in the Great Flood. Now this one turned to almost entirely silicates. I have it here, and I can see the spur lock in extreme detail. Absolutely unbelievable, because it's stripped right down to the alveoli. Look at, see way down in here? I'm going to show this in a microscope really well. All of these little blood spots, well, not all of them, but a lot of them, had blood coming right out, and there's the blood. Came right out of me. Now, this one here, I decided to get DNA tested, and this is the one right here. Now, this is when it first came out of, I forget if I even, I know I'm sure I washed it and stuff. It's just saturated with red blood. That's about as red blood as you can get. So I drilled down inside, just so that I wasn't swiping it off the surface. And took a sample out of there and sent it off, and he said it was excellent quality. He said it basically, it was like blood. I mean, look at it. When it came out of there, it looked just identical to blood. That's all I can tell you. And so did the other one, from this one and the 36-inch fingertip. That's right, 36-inch fingertip. And it came out, that was, well, let me show you. All right, remember I told you one of them didn't come all that good. That was from this hand. That's 4 feet wide up here. It's about 3 feet wide down here. It's a left human hand. It was human, but it wasn't as good a quality as the other ones. It was a little fainter on the aerogel or whatever they do. That's the tendon. It runs right down from the palm, the pad right here. This is all padding. And that's the tendon that runs down. Your thumb goes off this way. Your small finger goes right off this direction. This is broken off right about here. Everything's missing from about here down. Now, I found fingertips, knuckles, all kinds of stuff. What I want you to look at here, first of all, you can see down here, there's a bone down here, same thing you have in your own hand. That cleave is where you're right in here. All right, that's the tendon that runs down. If you lay your hand back, you have the same thing. You can't miss it. Now, what I want to show you that's really cool is this silver stuff is peeling off. It's like somebody painted on her. Well, this is what's called grip skin. You see it just peeling right off? I'm sure you can see there. You see how it's just peeling off a different color? This is fleshy stuff. And, you know, I found this 10 years ago. Well, at least now, probably 50, well, I don't know, 10, 12, I don't know. Everything's a blur now. But I have knuckles and fingers and all that, and it didn't come out as good as the rest. So this was on the test, and it you know, 4 foot wide hand. It's not tiny, but it's not big. You say, oh, Roger, 4 foot wide hand. That's pretty big. I said, well, so is a 3 foot long fingertip. From the very end of this to here, approximately 3 feet long. You see this? A foot, 2 feet, 2.5 feet. It's about 2.5 feet wide, and it's longer. So I think I had it measured at 3 feet. I called it a 36-inch tip. This is the fingernail. See how perfect that is? There's a little bit eroded here. This little thing here is where your bone rocks against the next bone. That's the 2 blood vessels I showed you, or I'm sure I showed you, coming into the fingertip. Now, to get blood out of it, I couldn't get it. I couldn't find any place where I could find any blood, and that's typical of fingers. They're almost like rubber gloves. So I smashed this off. I could see the crease of the fingernail. So I figured, well, if I just whack it, it'll make a chip something out of there, which it did. It just came off just like a scab. And I'll show you that in a second. And it had a fingerprints on it. And that opened it up to me to have just raw blood in there, literally like raw blood. And that came out excellent quality DNA. So, can I show you the fingerprints? Yes. Remember this piece? It only came about maybe this thick. And it was just the guy's skin right around his fingertip. And that's exactly where your fingerprints start, right up here. I'm going to show you the start of the fingerprints. Here they are right here. That's his fingerprints. Those are sweat pores. See the boom? Sweat pore, sweat pore. The fingernail was right up here, all the way around. And this is what grip skin is. They call it keratinized, whatever. I call it grip skin. It's the outside skin of your fingers and your toes and your, palms of your hand. All the stuff I showed you peeling off, that's this. It peels off just like that. But underneath, I mean, it is saturated with blood. So I took the blood out and sent it off. Obviously, I didn't send him a 3-foot-long fingertip. So he said he'll stand behind the test. But you have to understand, I was the one that extracted the DNA, or the samples. And he did the extraction of the DNA from the samples I sent to him. I don't want to confuse that whatsoever. I want you to understand, if I contaminated it, if I faked it, that's me, not Tom. Tom did a fabulous job, and he was quite certain this was modern DNA, and it was human. And it was not contaminated. It was dense. So, and you can see what it is. You'd be an idiot to say that's not what it is. It is what it is. And this can be retested. I have it here. I have this stuff here. So it's not like I can't retest it. This can be retested. Nobody will do it. I just got a thing from a friend of mine who wanted to see if Helix would do some DNA work for him, and he said he didn't do that type of stuff that he asked about, so which was to just identify, is there any sequences here that match humans from these things that don't look like human, they're almost human. It's got the tibia and a fibia and all that stuff. It's like a foot, but only it's different. It's got a built-in sole. It's got springs instead of bones. I'd like to know, I don't know. It's just for my own, I guess it doesn't matter. This stuff is just crazy. There was crazy stuff here. Absolutely crazy stuff. Giant things. And I mean, I show it over and over. My giant hair follicle around here somewhere. 2-inch hair follicle. That's a pretty good sized guy. All right, I think I'm going to close it up for today, but next time we're going to look at this lung in the microscope, and I'll show you the spur lock right down here. It's absolutely fabulously perfect because it's skinned all the way down to as deep down to the tissue as you can get. And there's that tube that runs down. There's 2 tubes in here. I can show it to you in the microscope. Now, we're going to look at the dragon scale in the microscope and see the blood from here, blood over there. And this stuff here is the glue. You see that? That's the glue that glued it. I'm sure that's Slurpee. Slurpee means small leucine-rich proteins. Something had to make it so that it could slide around, but it was still anchored, and I think that's the goo. And this tab, right there, you see that little tab? That locked it into somehow, and it could slide back and forth along with the other ones in this groove. It's the only one I've got, so I don't know how to hook together, but it's very, very obvious that this was built just the way it's built here for a specific purpose. And it has that little ridge in there to hold itself down. You see, I don't think that's fell off of there by accident. I think it's supposed to be there so that it's hooked into the next, and it won't just flop out of there. There's a hook. You see? And it's a Slurpee, so it can slide back and forth. And there's the blood coming in, and the blood going out, or vice versa. So we'll look at that and see if there's anything else we can see. And I got so many things we can look at in the microscope. Very cool stuff. Like this little thing here. That's an artery. I didn't put that in there. Here's one over right there. This is all really heavy duty rind around it. I don't know what it was. Not quite sure. But it's got that heavy duty fabric on there. That fabric means this thing had to do some movement. It's a lot of smushing around, or I don't know. There's a lot to learn, but whenever you see this type of fascia, that means that thing was stretching and coming back, stretching and coming back. Your heart, your lungs, and some types of cancers are like grouped into certain types of tissues. That maybe there's a certain type of cancer that invades the rubbery tissues. I'm sure there is. And they have some type of chemistry similarity in the rubbery tissues. And I would say it's because they're loose junctions. And because they're supposed to do this all the time, boom, boom, boom. And then they have to be glued together so they can do this but not come apart. If they're doing this, and somebody comes around that doesn't supposed to be there, so you have to be almost in an isolation ward so that you don't get invaded. And it's got to have something to do with the bacteria not creating the enzymes, because the enzymes make the chemistry. If this guy over here doesn't have it and you have that disease, well, I bet you, I'm almost certain you're going to find out his bacteria and your bacteria do not match. And there's going to be one thing that the people that have this kind of invasion in this kind of floppy tissue, they'll probably mostly all have the same issue with their bacteria. And if you can fix that bacteria, I think you can fix the disease. I really do. This is the new research. It's time to pay attention to this, and to pay attention to our reality of the things that are here that haven't been paid attention to, because they're spectacular. I don't discount that. But everything that I'm finding is so spectacular that we've missed everything in life. Literally everything. Even like they won't allow me to talk about accelerating light, because it's too much to the big experts. This is fission, fusion, and nuclear subatomic explosion. It's creating reverse EMF, where they say, yes, they can see light going backwards, so we can reverse time. No, it's bouncing backwards. And it's going forward, so it's just bouncing, so it's going both directions at the same time. Big article, oh, we've seen it. Well, so have I. There it is right there. And it's because we accelerated the light here. And this is, if you can see those, reverse electromotive force. It's because it's a baboom. It's the only reason it's going this way is because it's going that way. It should be going this way like everybody else is. And the only reason you can see these is because of the reverse concussion against them. Normally you don't see light. The only reason you see this one is it's being accelerated to the venturi. And then the only reason you see these is because of the enormous amount of energy release. We should be able to get free energy. And this is, it's very depressing and very frustrating that all of this stuff I have shown, even though it's as spectacular as it is, it's just what they show at Fermilab. It's the same particles. We accelerated the light. If we can get free energy, that's just, and also we just have missed everything about our reality in the past. These things were not silly. These things were petrified in the manner that Ovid talked about. They did it by the gods that were here, did it for their amusement. And they made insane things just for their own amusement. They said they decorated their palaces with people that they turned into stone by means of violence, often. That person looked pretty happy getting turned into stone. I don't know. It is, I'm telling you, it's crazy. Even like this. You see that? That's her heart leaking out. The gods made these for their own, and made a little puppy for her too. I don't know what else to say. That's her heart leaking out of that. For me, there is absolutely no question about that. All right, her heart would be right up in here, and the blood is now soaking down. Red blood stays very, very fluidy. And you can see some little reddish, pinkish stuff there where it's coming out through the tissue. Somehow they had a way to make the adipose tissue instantly solid. Because these people are posed just, like, look at this guy, he's posed. And he was holding up a big clamshell like this and he had, I think, like a trident. And this is his adipose tissue, solid as a rock, literally. And here's his tendon. Same as his everybody has got that same tendon, identical. And there's the red, fleshy stuff underneath. So we have to take this stuff into reality now and pay attention to it. You know, you can run, you can hide from reality, but I don't want to. Maybe you do. Every culture on the face of the planet talked about this as reality. They talked about gods, they talked about giants, they talked about dragons, they talked about the ancient flood, they talked about battles in the heavens. They talked about all the things that Mudfossils supports and validates. This was not, they weren't just telling funny little stories to have a good time, make up things like we do now with, you know, all of these you know, special effects things and galaxies going here and there. That's more realistic than the reality that we've been led to believe is reality. We missed everything, literally everything. I don't mean to shake your world, but if that doesn't shake your world, nothing ever will. All right, don't forget this, that little pad that sits at the end of the finger in my giant fingertip here. You see the little pad sitting right there at the back? This is absolutely giant, and I mean, it's flawless. And the fingerprints and everything are right here. So I'm going to leave it at that for today, but we really are missing everything, really everything. And you got to start with dipole electron flood theory. Everything starts with dipole electron flood theory. And then, of course, all of this stuff, my DNA tests and all that, and the specimens, they're all here available to be looked into. And here it is. This is what you got to learn, is the dipole electron flood theory. This solves the problem of how did these things petrify? How did they become exceptionally preserved soft tissues? It's because of membranes, which is, I call it fascia facilitated fossilization. This is all what you call fascia, but it's membranes. Let's just go with membranes. I don't care about fascia, interstitium. It's a coating that keeps this protected that's in there. That's what I'm talking about. And what causes that to work? Chemistry. And what is chemistry? Literally half-lives. Enzymes work with half-lives. When they break down molecules, they don't just split them in half. They go and they jiggle them around until they get where they want, and it's part of the program. Take 6 of these and 2 of these and 4 of these of the amino acids and jiggle, and boom. All right, now we got one. Bring another one in. Boom. But they work well. Let's see how fast enzymes do work. Okay, my friends, another day. Hard to believe what science is doing to us. Scientists are proposing a new human ancestor, extremely large brain, bigger than that of modern humans, be called Homo julienus. Digital reconstruction of the skulls can be seen above. They got little scraps. They got little scraps and pieces, and we reconstructed it. Now we know exactly what they did and what they ate and how they played games and everything else. Well, it's ridiculous. Skull fragments, teeth, and jaws found at a different site in China have led some researchers to believe they have found the remains of a previous unknown ancient human relative. Well, how about this? How about this? No toes. That's as close to human as you get, except it has the toes are inside. It's got a tibia. It's got a fibia. It's even got its own soul. It's a soul man. What can I say? Maybe we'll call him Soul Man. I was going to call him No Toes. But this particular one, I think I'll call Soul Man. All right, so I think I either have shown you or will show you that there was giants here living along with regular people, because I can show you this in my own stuff. I have 2 different size giants. I got about a 50-footer and I got about a 200-footer. This guy's got a 3-foot long fingertip. Where'd he go? Right there. That's 3 feet long. You do the math. From here to the very end out here is about 3 feet. This is a foot, 2 feet, about 2.5 feet wide, about 3 feet long. That's the fingernail. It still has the fingertips on, the fingerprints on. I think I probably showed you this, but it's starting to get frustrating. I keep showing over and over and over. You show the same thing. Well, if somebody pay attention, I'll stop. It's the fingerprints. I took the blood right out where blood is absolutely dense in fingers, and I took blood, literally raw red blood, and sent it off. Excellent quality DNA sequence was obtained in a 36-inch sample. That was the big fingertip, and the long, which I will show you in a minute. And they were Homo sapien mitochondrial B and D loop regions. And this was a very sophisticated test, and nobody will do them anymore because the people that do them get assaulted by academia. This was 10 years ago. I can't get a single person to take. In the academia, they don't care. Absolutely don't care. It's the most devious system I have ever seen, taking advantage of kids. Selling that you'll never get anywhere unless you get this piece of paper. Give us a whole batch of money, we'll give you a piece of paper. Make sure you say exactly what we tell you to say. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, because it is all wrong now, completely wrong. So as long as you got that piece of paper, you go make some money. But if you don't say exactly what we tell you to say, we'll tell people you're stupid. So give us the money, say exactly what we tell you to say, and we'll give you the piece of paper. And your parents come down and say, you got to go to school. You got to go to school to get that piece of paper. They're leading the kids astray everywhere, from everywhere. It's a real disaster. So hopefully we can get rid of this nonsense with this academia, just because it's at this point it's fraud. There's no more, we just didn't realize it. No, they realized it 10 years ago. And they suppressed it, plagiarized it, twisted it, contorted it, and used it to suck money from the government for more funding so that we can look into this and look into that. And we got no. Bennu is a heart. They went out and collected it and came back. It's a heart. I've shown all these things over and over and over. Not one single engagement, because they want their funding, and that is the prime mover in academia and any type of research. All they're looking for is funding. They twist everything. I got another thing today how they just figured out the photon. We know exactly what it looks like due to our calculations. It's a disaster, my friends. I love you all. We've got to get this thing under control. You got to start talking up. Don't be afraid. Academia has people scared to death. Literally. They have you intimidated and scared to death to speak up. I don't go that route. And you shouldn't either. All right, I love you all. Bye.